show with some Southern and Cajun flair. I'm Daniel Hawks. That's Jared Roser. And today we're going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. Got Saints free agency. Will Wade made some interesting comments to the media after McNeese's game yesterday. And then Nick Saban is being complained by the FCC. So let's get into it. Jared, how you doing today?
Doing all right, man. We talked last week. I mentioned, I thought I was still recovering from Mardi Gras. I didn't realize I was actually heading into sickness for several
Yeah.
days, and so I've got like the Dayquil head going right now. It's getting worse by the second as you took like 4 times to do the intro. I've got a ring light up here. The battery's dying. Just we're in shambles in Baton Rouge.
Oh, I mean, we're in shambles up here in Chicago too. We're prepping for St. Patrick's Day, which I guess would be the equivalent of what Mardi Gras is down there. Up here in Chicago, it is just an absolute horse of a day, but it's not for.
I was worried you were going to say the SH word, and fans of College Game Day weren't going to like it.
Well, actually, let's just jump into some fun stuff first, and then we'll get into it. Nick Saban has gotten a multitude of SEC complaints from. It's just very funny. Okay, so Alabama former football coach has been hit with a bunch of fines for cursing during College Game Day, specifically while they were in Atlanta. What he said was, I think these fines. I think to fine these schools $100,000 is like worrying about mouse manure when you're up to your ears in elephant-ish. And then here's one of the FCC complaints that were lodged against him. It said Nick Saban said the word S-I-T, but with an H in there, twice. He said the B word once, something else I can't remember. I tune in to gain knowledge and insight on college football, not to have profanity stuffed in my face by a former coach to be funny. It'll continue until you fine them $1 million or more. Cheeky fines accomplish nothing. I just find it hilarious. All of this. I find all of this so funny and so Southern to the point where I remember after LSU won the Joe Burrow National Championship, I'm in New Orleans, I'm at a bar, and I lean to my friend and I say, we just won the effing national championship. I'm at a bar at 1 a.m. and I'm excited. Some dude tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, man, there are females present. You shouldn't be cussing like that. And I was real drunk. So I said,
oh, yeah. For folks that don't know you, I'm sure that went great. I've seen far less ridiculous complaints go really off the rails in a hurry, so I can only imagine.
Yeah, I basically said, F that, F you, and F everything you stand for. So this is just very funny. Also, any programming on ESPN, while yes, there are commentators and analysts on there that do have some good insight, but it is entertainment programming. And it is entertainment programming, especially in football, that already has to do with such a violent game. And if you're complaining to the FCC because the football program that's about the men that beat up on each other every Saturday and Sunday weren't watching their tongue from 9 a.m. to 12 because there might be children involved, I'm going to go ahead and finally get curse shard. Just go ahead. Just literally take yourself somewhere else. All right. I don't want you anywhere near anything that I'm doing. Or you can keep calling the FCC and ask for fines for Nick Saban, because I'm sure that's going to work.
You danced around that the curse jar for a long time.
I know. I wanted it to be. I wanted to
diving in Scrooge McDuck.
It was like the person on the on the diving thing for the Olympics that jumps up like 4 times before he dives. That's what I was doing. I was trying to bring it in for the people. So
well done. I mean, obviously, I'm somewhere just like your reaction last night. I thought this was laughable in terms of the complaints about Saban to the FCC from all over the place. Louisiana, Missouri, I think it was Park City, North Carolina was one. But I wasn't necessarily to the extreme of some of the words that you texted in your response that would just, really quickly ramp up the curse jar. I'm somewhere between the guy that is the reason we bleep out the curses and we try to avoid some of it, and the guy that is the, on the other side of the screen, who is the primary offender and really building that curse jar bank. I get some level of it, but I mean, I think people are also just ridiculous. It's the SH word.
He's not talking like me. Like it's not like
exactly.
Every other word is a curse word. He said it once, and it was to bring home a point, at least for one of those things.
It's just it was a colloquial saying that he hit there one time. It's not like he's on there again speaking like you at 1 a.m. after a national championship in the bar, dropping F-bombs left and right. It's pretty minor offense by the GOAT of college football coaching. And so congrats on having the pearls to clutch all over the Southeast, but calm down, dude. There's so many things going on, so many worse things to be worried about, that if you're wasting your time hitting up the FCC about Saban hitting an SH, I won't even call it a bomb. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Also, like, I'm sure they just said they haven't come to light, but like, is Pat McAfee not getting just because he has that little sign up on his show that they may use cuss words again, because that's how people in the real world actually talk.
Yeah,
also,
the Nick Saban deal got headlines, but in one of the stories, one of the complaints did mention Pat McAfee just being off the rails, which I get. That's where I'm saying I kind of understand. I haven't watched.
I'm here for that.
I haven't watched enough of Pat to catch how frequent it is, but it seems like anytime I do tune in, that it's more like us talking off air than it is a national television broadcast.
Yeah,
and so I feel the grandparents or parents or whatever of Lee Summit, Missouri, and Park City, North Carolina on that one. But how are we here on a free Saban rant on Louisiana versus all y'all? But that's where I'm at.
I don't know. Like, go worry about egg prices. Just like, come on.
For real.
Oh, let's move on. We did enough of that. I'm glad we started with the fun bit. Now let's get into real stuff. Saints free agency is happening. They're making moves. I would say begrudgingly to me. I'm going to be the ultimate pessimist. I have no hope in the Saints team. I have no hope in the Saints. Really, honestly, this entire year off season, they do sign a very good safety in Justin Reed. It's a 3-year, $22.5 million contract. He's coming over from the Chiefs. He's a really good player. They also just signed a cornerback today. I can't remember the name. Re-signed Chase Young. They re-signed Juwan Johnson. They are, I guess, they're making moves, but I don't think they need to. I don't like it. I don't like any of it. I hate it.
Here's the argument: isn't whether to expect them to do much this year, which I think we've had some of this conversation before of they're probably not going to be very good this year. And the only reason to have any level of optimism is that we don't expect the division to be great. And so if you kind of like, if you win a couple that maybe we're not expecting you to right now, you maybe backdoor into a division championship in a mediocre division and sneak in. But I think the bigger conversation where we really need to be focused is you're just ticked off that they're spending any money
because they don't have money to spend. Because they don't have money to spend because they're so down on the cap that literally any extra money that they're spending is just going to Kershaw me again them next year or the year after. The bill will come due for all of this money that they keep restructuring and putting at a different date. It's going to come. It is going to come, and it's going to hit really hard. And you know who's going to be available next year in the draft is Arch Manning. And so why are you doing stuff? Yes, Justin Reed is probably not going to alter. He's a really good player. He's probably not going to alter too many wins and losses from the safety.
He's position. Good, man.
He's very, very good. But You know,
let me be excited about the all Louisiana safety combo of Tyron and Justin coming in.
Great. And maybe that's something to build towards a little bit later. But like, why are you re-signing Chase Young to a 3-year deal? That really, like, Chase Young is a solid player. He's not ever lived up to what he's drafted for. He's never had double-digit sacks as an edge rusher. I just don't understand why you extend him for 3 years. I get maybe a year. I get they need people on the team to play. But giving him 3 years just seems ludicrous to me. Jawan Johnson is like pushing 30. You also extend him as well. I don't feel very good about any of this.
So my thing is where I mean, I'm generally going to be less up in arms than you on most topics, but I don't know enough about the specifics of the contracts in this world of NFL contracts where we see big numbers and they don't ultimately end up meaning what you would assume based on 3-year this. Like, there's so many outs and ability to move money around that, like, I don't have enough of a handle on the cap, and most of those contracts aren't huge. Like the Justin Reed thing is one of the bigger contracts. The Chase Young thing is the one that, to me, 3 years for 51. But again, all of this stuff is so nebulous to me. It's tough for me to get to assume, okay, in 3 years these guys are going to be a part of the team, or in 3 years they're still going to be paying these guys. It's just beyond my reach a little bit. And when you're signing like a cornerback for 3 years for 10 or 11 million or whatever, like, some of that is you just need to feel the team, and like what you're paying them and when you're paying them is so fluid that I can't worry that much about it for a team that I don't expect to be good in the next year or two anyway. You just kind of hopefully not getting stuck in another monster deal like a Carr situation where you're just completely handcuffed. But like what these deals right now mean for me in 2 years is so far removed from what I can even forecast.
And you are correct. Like a lot of NFL deals, while you don't hear like a term in the NBA is player option, team option, things like that.
Right.
A lot of these NFL contracts, after 1 or 2 years, they're basically, even if it's a very long contract, they're team options every year. And there are ways for these teams to get out of them. So while I am up in arms, it's probably a little more for the bit, but it's still, I feel like the Saints front office doesn't deal in reality. I guess is what I'm saying is I think in their head, they're still trying to compete, which, yes, you want that to happen. But like, there needs to, in the NFL, especially, and professional sports, you got to have some at least sense of realism about where your program is, where your franchise is, and how to get it out if it is in a bottom tier, which the Saints are. I would say they're one of like 3 teams that I would be super pessimistic on leading into the season, including the Browns, including the Jets, Giants. Like, they're in that tier of bottom dwellers, and I don't think they see themselves as that.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where my issue comes in, because I would rather just say, like, hey, no, we know, like, please, New Orleans, like, we know y'all love us. Just give us 2 years. We're gonna suck for 2 years. Like, just come out, and in whatever wordage, verbiage, like, it's gonna be a trying 2 years. A lot of character will be built in this 2 years. Whatever you want to say in the terms of, like, hey, we're gonna suck enough until we can get a really good quarterback in the draft that can change around our franchise. That's what I want. And that's, I think, what is frustrating. Instead of doing things like Derek Carr for that Godzilla of a contract that he got, the Justin Reed and Tyrann Mathieu thing, I think if you do still kind of suck this year and you are able to get a solution on the offensive side of the ball, which includes basically everyone but Alvin Kamara, and hopefully Kellen Moore does provide a little of that. So maybe you get people that want to come in and see this, and maybe that's part of it. But It's frustrating. It's frustrating to just watch all of this go down, and then just feel like the Saints front office is the only one like not in on the joke or not in on the bet. Like they're laughing with everyone, thinking like we're just laughing, everyone's having a good time, and everyone's like, no, we're laughing at you. We're laughing directly at you. It's like, I know. Isn't that so much fun that we're all just laughing together and having a great grand old time? And it's like, I don't think Mickey gets it. I don't think he gets that this is all about him.
I think the biggest point takeaway from what you're saying for me that is completely fair is essentially you have to have a sense of realism of where you are as a franchise, and you have to have a plan. And I think both of us, coming from growing up watching more NBA probably than any other professional sport, we're so tuned into the idea of, look, you're either competing for a championship or tank and reset some things, but have a plan about it where okay, this is kind of our rebuilding plan, multi-year approach, whatever. And I think it's really extreme in the NBA. It's not necessarily quite as extreme in the NFL, where there are fewer games and the wiggle room between making the playoffs and not can be, a week or two here or there. But that's still a really important, critical piece of leading an organization, is having a realistic sense of where you are. And I agree that I don't feel a lot of times that the Saints have the most realistic view of where they are. And if kind of they've been one of the key, the cap isn't real, we're fine, kick the can down the road. You criticize us for how we're managing that, and we somehow find a way to compete at a higher level than what people are anticipating, and maneuver our way out of the cap and all those things. They've been that for so long that they've kind of reached a certain hubris or Icarus, or however you want to frame it, with some of that, where now they're just still doing it, but Drew Brees is long gone and Sean Payton's long gone and all these things, and you're one of the worst teams in the NFL. And so hopefully there's more of a plan that we're seeing unfold at some point.
They signed Dante Pettis, so wide receiver's good.
But I think you and I are both pretty locked into the concept of this team probably shouldn't be particularly good for the next 2 years at minimum, and that hopefully people recognize that and are putting longer term pieces in play.
And listen, it can only be a year. Like there is, next off season, next draft, there are several quarterbacks in there that you could even restart with. From Arch, from maybe, let's see how Nussmeier does. The Penn State, Drew Aller. There are some guys in this next season. Whatever.
At no point between now and then try and sell me on that route. I'll buy some hype on.
Try and sell you on Arch. Yeah.
No.
Well, I'm just looking at. I was looking at a list of the QBs, but like, come on.
Once you got to Aller, I was like, all right, let's just transition now. I don't want that. That's not my savior in New Orleans.
And like Rashid Shaheed is coming off an ACL. He's probably not going to be the same until maybe next year. Like he won't be the same this year. A guy built on speed, like coming off of a major knee injury, like you got to at least expect the year after the injury is going to be where he really starts to come back as a player. Chris Olave, yes, he's a great player. I would like him to play. I also don't want that man to die on the field. And every time he gets hit, I'm looking to see if his arms have locked up, because he's had like 8 concussions since Ohio State already. So massive amount of brain injury. It literally kept him out the remainder of the year after his last concussion this past season. And that's a scary thought. So like you don't, as a quarterback, you don't have a lot of weapons that you can rely on. You just have Alvin Kamara and Juwan Johnson and Taysom Hill also coming off of a major injury towards the end of the year. So it's a sad state of affairs, but it is a state of affairs, I guess you could say. So at least they're at the dance.
I don't know that you've had a chance to hear this yet. You're more of the Ringer NFL show guy than the Bill Simmons show guy. I think that's the difference in our like year and a half of age or whatever. I've been on Bill Simmons since I was like 10 years old, reading page 2 on ESPN.com or whatever. But your guys were on one of the recent Bill Simmons shows.
Yeah.
Went through like the whatever it was, 2000s comedy reference awards, and for the Saints, they got to Bridesmaids, Melissa McCarthy about to,
dump
Nick
in the
Saban word
streets.
in the street. The look away award for just that was the Saints, and they said with probably the most depressing circumstance in the league right now.
Yeah.
Coming through free agency, and so your guys are certainly in line with some of what you're saying, but I think
for sure. And I heard that
I don't
and
disagree.
I was like, this is true.
Yeah.
I
don't disagree. I'm just comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with the Saints shitting in the street for a couple of years.
Hey, Kershaw, we both, this is, I think, 3 in a row where we both have one. I don't think 3 in a row, but at least the 3rd time this year that we both had one. Moving on, I think we've had enough Saints talk for me. Will Wade, McNeese State is going to the tournament. They won yesterday versus it was Lamar, I believe.
In the Southland Conference
Lamar in the Southland Conference Championship. They go ahead and win a very scrappy game. There was even a fight mid-game. But Will Wade's team is going, former LSU coach, now current McNeese State coach. They're going to the tournament. After the game, his fans were chanting 1 more year. And Will Wade said, when I signed my contract, I promised Heath I would be here for 2 years. I didn't talk to a single team last year, but now this has been 2 years and we'll see what happens. But we have 1 more week with the team and we'll see what happens. AKA that man is leaving.
I don't know. I don't know, man.
How many times do you see we'll see what happens in one sentence and you're not already thinking about?
I know.
Listen, I'm not going to curse during the segment, but I'll see what happens. I mean, we'll just see what happens. Let's just get through the segment and see what happens.
I know there'd been a lot of buzz of NC State trying to make a move on him, but then I saw Brad Crawford of 247 reporting Wednesday that that's not going to happen and that it seems like that's a Will Wade choice to leave it alone. I mean, we were here a year ago where SEC schools were talked about in play for Will Wade, and it seemed like Will Wade is probably gone, and there was a lot of we'll see what happens type energy at that point that in typical coaching situations, you would have anticipated that guy's gone, and then next thing you know, he's back at McNeese State winning a 2nd straight Southland Conference championship and taking the Cowboys back to the NCAA tournament. I think he's really playing this very differently from the norm right now. And when you have SEC schools knocking, when you have NC State potentially in the mix, it'll be interesting. I think he's going to play this leverage really interesting this year, whether that becomes getting the highest dollar and best opportunity out of another coaching spot for him, or getting that many more resources to have an even better year potentially next year at McNeese State, and then springboard that to an even higher level of coaching opportunity a subsequent year. I really don't know. I'm not assuming Will is on the way out yet, even after that quote that would typically in most situations signal a guy probably is looking elsewhere.
I think
how are you going to leave Amir Khan? You got.
I was going to say, you think Aura got in his ear? Do you think that's why it was so many Will C's?
Amir got that insomnia cookie deal, and he's like, "Look, Will, I'll give you a couple crumbs off of this NIL deal that I just got if you stick around in LC for another year."
Hey, well, listen, that would be enough for me to stay. I'm going to be honest with you. So, I think, we'll start to see what coaching availabilities are really coming open as of, after really this week and weekend. We'll see some people get fired for sure. Maybe after the NIT.
Know who's not coming open this year is LSU.
Yes. Man, that was rough. That was a rough game to watch. That Mississippi State game. They went 5 minutes without a field goal.
It's not what you're looking for.
It is not what you're looking for. And in general, I don't know what that offense was that they were trying to do. A lot of the times it would like go to the elbow, and then the guy at the elbow would just get stuck, and Mississippi State would steal the ball. It happened like 3 times because I don't know if I don't remember the guy's name, the player's name, but it just looked like he was completely flabbergasted every time he got the ball to make what pass to make. And Mississippi State, credit to them, they're super well coached and defensive minded team. And that really came through, and they really kind of got after it. I have no clue where LSU basketball is going to go. Hopefully, I mean, because they just got, I mean, how many transfer people or transfer players did they get this year? Didn't they dip into the transfer portal a good bit?
They did some. I don't remember numbers.
I just don't know where to go, you know? And I also don't.
College basketball is a year-to-year roster turnover at this point.
Yeah.
Anyway, and particularly the last few years for LSU since having to rebuild entirely after Will was booted out.
Do you think Will Wade would ever want to come back to LSU?
Yes. That's why I brought this up. Is LSU's not open this year, but I mean they're going to invest next year. And we talked a couple of weeks ago. I have a lot of confidence in Matt McMahon and those guys with some more NIL backing. It sounds like they're going to have, you know, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think they're going to, from what I've read of our guy Matt Bruni over at Bengal Tiger, that it sounds like they're going to have multiple times over millions of dollars better resources in the NIL field this coming, this off season as compared to last. And so with some better resources in that regard, I'm very interested to see how quickly they can kind of retool this thing. But if things don't work out there and that LSU job potentially becomes open in a year, if Will's still sitting there in Lake Charles with the best basketball team in Louisiana built over his 3 years in Lake Charles, things get real interesting, because I do absolutely think he would come back if they wanted to make that move and bring him on back. Yeah.
I mean, because it kind of, the reason he got let go was like, you're doing what everyone else is doing. You just got caught. So I think I would like to see Will Wade come back.
I like Will. I like Will a lot.
Yeah, I think it'd be like an unfinished business type thing. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll keep you updated too on PODnas. I think I've gone on enough rants today. I don't have much else. Jared, do you have anything for the people before we get out of here?
Not really. Just one more shout out to Amir Khan out there in Lake Charles, who, whether everyone around the country realizes it yet or not, I mean, we talked about Loyola Chicago, Sister Jean, a few years ago, and we always have these non-player darlings of the NCAA tournament. Like, get ready, because Amir's going to be all over your televisions for a week there as the Cowboys get ready for their second straight NCAA tournament appearance.
Absolutely. And you can check out everything Louisiana versus all y'all on their YouTube page. Also go over to Twitter, LA versus all y'all. You can find out more about PODnas on the YouTube page, like we just mentioned. Also on our Instagram, PODnas_LA. Go check us out. Comment, like, share this video. We'd love to hear from you. That's all we got for you. See you next time. PODnas.